So today we're going to do the handover video on the Burstner Ixeo Time 585. We're going to start on the outside and then we're going to move on to the inside. So firstly, coming over to the passenger side, you can see that you've got your fill-up points here. This is for your diesel, which is just on the passenger side, as I say, and opening up the passenger door, you'll notice that you have got your bonnet release catch, which is just here. Pull that to release the bonnet. Whilst we've got the passenger doors open, you can notice that you've got these press studs here. You've also got them on the other side, as well as the big window at the front. You have got some blinds up at the front there, which just clip onto these, and using the magnetic strips, they connect onto the door frame there to black out the entire cab. Now coming over to the bonnet, there's not many things that you need to know underneath here. The main things that you need to know is if you're ever going to jump start the vehicle. If that is the case, I'll show you where to do that from now. I'll just pop the bonnet. So with the bonnet open, jump starting, dead simple, dead easy. Your positive is just onto here. As you can see, you've got a little plus sign on that cap. Flick the cap up and your positive goes onto there, and your negative is just onto this little nipple here. Connect that on and then you can jump start the vehicle. They're the main things that you need to know, but just to point out a couple more things, you can see that you've got your engine oil here along with your dipstick below that. Your brake disc fluid is up here next to your power steering fluid. Your engine coolant is at the front, and then finally your washer fluid is next in the corner there. Moving on and going around the vehicle, you can see that you've next got a storage locker here, which is great for obviously putting all your gear in and your kit. That is fully heated and insulated. You'll also notice on this side of the vehicle that you've got your awning, which spans the length of the vehicle. This is a Fiamma awning, and on this side you can see this is where it just connects. All you need to do is connect the pole up, give that a half turn, which will then connect it into place and lock the pole in, and you can then wind out the awning. As a rule of thumb, what we say is if it is blowing a gale and it's very windy, just put the awning in, because as you can imagine, this is a massive sail on the side of your vehicle and you don't want it taking off, so just bear that in mind. Whilst we're on this side of the vehicle, you can see that you've got your main habitation door, which is here, along with your pull-out step, and in the back here you've got your gas locker, which is just in here. Now, one thing to remember is when travelling, that the gas is always turned off, but when on site, of course, you can put your gas on and feed that through, but when travelling, please ensure that the gas is turned off. Before setting off as well, what I recommend is just doing yourself a bit of a checklist, i.e. make sure that the gas is turned off, your windows are closed, your aerials or whatever you've got on the roof is down and closed as well, just to ensure that you're not going to break anything before moving off. Now, moving to the back, you can see that you've got your bike rack with two rails on the back here, along with your fridge vents, which are at the back here. In winter, you can, if you wanted, get fridge vents or fridge covers rather, which will block that and shield it from the elements. It is worth mentioning, if it is a hot day, try and keep this area under shade, just to allow the fridge to run more efficiently. Moving to the back, you can see you've got your cassette toilet locker. I'll open this up for you now. With the locker open, it gains you access to the cassette. Now, the main thing that you need to know here is that when removing the cassette, you need to ensure that the blade on the toilet is closed. If it is open, you'll go to remove this and it can potentially get jammed, which will end up in it breaking and snapping the mechanism inside. So please ensure that the blade on the toilet is closed. I'll show you how to do that when we move on to the inside. But to simply remove, all you need to do is pull up on this little clip here to free it, and then slide out like so. Once it's in this free position, you can slide it all the way out, and just placing it on the ground, I'll now show you how to empty it. You've got this funnel here at the front. Simply open that up and twist that out like so. You can then unscrew the cap on the end, and then using the green button at the back of the cassette, that will release an internal vacuum. You can drain the contents out. You can then put a bit of water in here and give it a swill out. Once you've done that, if you've got any blue fluid, that can go in the top of the cap. There's a little measuring measurement on there, which will allow you to decide how much you want to put in. And once you've swirled it out and put that blue fluid in and put the cap back on, simply slide the funnel back in and you can slide the cassette straight in. Now you will notice that you have got this green, another green blade here which actually moves and spins. This is what makes connection with the blade when on the inside of the cassette, and it opens and closes the cassette when necessary. This should always stay in this position. There should be no need for this to turn or move. If this is turned or kinked like so, the cassette just won't go back in, and it could again break. So make sure that's in that position. You should have no need to move that or anything. Putting it back in, simply pick up like so, line it up, and slide in until it connects into place with that green little lever there. Next, you'll notice that you've got your first drain down point. You've 3 main drain down points in the vehicle. You've got a wastewater drain down point, which is this pipe here, which as you can see is external. You've then got 2 others which are internal. You've got the freshwater drain down point and the wastewater drain down point. So it's dead easy, dead simple. At the moment the tank is open, so there's nothing in the tank. To close it, using this valve here, you can turn that and that will close the tank. What I recommend, if it is very cold, I'd get a bucket, leave that open, leave this tank open and let it all drain out. And as a rule of thumb with your drain down points, what I'd say is when you finish using the vehicle and you're moving off site, drain everything out just to make sure nothing freezes. That is definitely, or especially for the colder months as well, so just make sure of that. And when you've drained down the majority of the water out of the vehicle on site over your big grid, you can leave everything open, because as you're travelling home, the vibrations of the road will get all that water out. Moving over, you can see that you've got your hookup cable, which just goes into the van. That provides your vehicle with 230 volt electric. You've then got your Truma vent, which is your heater. In essence, this is the vehicle's chimney, so it does get hot, so just bear that in mind. Don't hang anything on there or touch it. And then next, you've got your freshwater fill-up point, as you can see. All you need is your key to unlock that, and you can take out the valve. Then using a food grade hose pipe, you can pop that in and fill up the tank. You've got about 120 litres of fresh water that can be stored in the vehicle, and as I say, use a food grade hose pipe to ensure there's no bacteria building up, and you can simply pop that straight in. Once that's overflowing, you've filled the tank, and you can then put the cap back on and then go to your pitch on the site. So that concludes the outside. We're now going to move on to the inside. As you can see, on the inside you've got your point for the step, which will open and drop out like so. You've then got some light switches as well. Now as soon as you walk in, you're greeted with your control panel, which is up at the top here. Dead simple and dead easy. What you've got is the main controls in at the moment, in the middle rather. So to turn off, click this button here. You can see all your lights go off, and that's what turns off the system. To turn on, click that 12 volt button. You can see your lights are powered up. You can see we're currently plugged in thanks to this little light here. There is an alarm on the other side which will flash red, say for example if you've not got any power in the vehicle or your leisure battery is running low. On this side will indicate your leisure battery levels. So you've got your vehicle battery level, as you can see, and then your leisure battery, which is nearly full as we're plugged in. On the other side, you've got your fresh and wastewater drain down points, which indicate, not drain down points rather, tank levels. You can then hold for the fresh water and hold for the wastewater. Now as you can see, it's lighting up. There's nothing that's happening because we've no water in the system, but obviously once you've filled that up, these will read a certain amount. Finally, on this panel you've got your pump button, which is just here. Click that on to turn the pump on. Now you only need to run the pump when you've got water in the system. Of course, don't run the system if you've got no water in it, because you'll simply burn out the pump. Once you've got water in the system and you're ready to go, you then need to go to your taps, including your shower, and turn them on and turn them to hot. What that'll do is it'll pull water from the freshwater tank into the boiler and then out of the tap. It'll spurt and splutter, and then when it's running steadily, you're good to go. You've primed your system for your hot water. Once you've done that, flick it over to cooled and do the exact same, and as I say, once it's running steadily, you're good to go. Now, once you have done that, each of your taps are fitted with a micro switch which will activate and deactivate your pump whenever you need it. So you don't need to turn your pump off, so don't worry about burning it out because you prime your system. The only time you need to turn your pump off is if you've got no water in the system, which if you've just filled up, you'll be good to go. You don't need to worry about that. And that concludes the control panel up at the top. You will notice that you have got a little sensor here. That's just the temperature sensor for the Truma boiler. So moving on from the panel and into the kitchen area, you can see that you've got your oven and grill, which is just below the worktop here, and below that you've got a bit of storage as well. Some more storage next to it, and some more just underneath the sink. Now underneath your sink you'll see that you've got these red taps. The red taps are isolation valves. You don't need to do anything with them, just leave them as they are. They will isolate areas within the van. You only need to turn them if you're advised to. They're mainly for the technicians who work on the vehicle, so just bear that in mind. There's no need to worry about them. Your hob is above the fridge. We've obviously discussed about the tap and the sink, but yeah, the hob is just above the fridge, which is all gas. So of course you need your gas on for that to run. And then below that is your Dometic fridge. Now this is a three-way system. It's dead simple and dead easy to use. One thing to know with the fridge is if you are putting, if you want cold things to be in the fridge, put cold things in. It does a good job at maintaining the temperature, but doesn't do the best of jobs at getting it down to temperature. So just bear that in mind. Now coming up to the fridge, as I say, it's a three-way system. At the moment it's in the off position. Using this dial, you can flick between the options. The first option is gas. So when you're when you're on site and wild camping, you can run it off your gas. If you're hooked up on site and you've got 230 volt electric like I have now, you can turn it to the 230 volt point. And then when you're travelling, you can run it off your leisure battery. Now a lot of people think that when they're wild camping you can run it off your 12 volt leisure battery. However, that's not the case. If it was, you'd simply burn out the battery. It just draws too much power, so it'll only allow you when you're wild camping to run it off gas, providing you obviously have gas to the vehicle. So bear that in mind. When travelling, as I say, you can have it off the 12 volt leisure battery because you've got a built-in alternator with this vehicle, which will ultimately, as the vehicle battery is running, will send charge via the alternator to your leisure battery, which will power the fridge. So it's dead simple, dead easy. Turn that off when not in use, and you can see that on this side you've got the temperature gauge here as well. You've got a lock and unlock feature here as well when you're travelling. You can see the freezer's up at the top and the fridge is just below. Next, moving on, you can see that you've got your bathroom area. As I mentioned on the outside, we've spoken about your shower and priming that. The main thing to know here is obviously the blade on the toilet. So always have that open when in use and closed when not. So when using the vehicle, or when using the toilet rather, this is the blade. You need to pull that towards you and that opens the cassette. You'll open the blade so all the waste can drop down, and once you've done that, click this blue button which activates the flush, and then simply pull out or push the blade back. You push the blade back to close it. The reason for doing that is that will stop any odours from escaping, but it'll also get you into the habit of having that close, so when you come to remove the cassette, it doesn't get jammed. One thing to note on here, you do have a gauge of when it says it's full, and that's when you need to, of course, empty it. And your blue button will activate your flush. As I've mentioned, you do need your pump on for that to operate, so just bear that in mind. So next, we're now moving out of the bathroom and into your wardrobe. So you've got some decent amount of hanging space here, as you can see. You've got two cushions here. Dead simple and dead easy. They are for the bed at the front, which I'll show you how to use in just a moment. But obviously they can store in here for the time being, or store elsewhere if you are using this. In here you've got a good bit of storage, as I mentioned, but you can see that this is where your aerial is located. As I mentioned on the outside, you need to make sure that your aerial is down before moving off to ensure it doesn't hit anything. Once you're good to go and you're on site, you can unscrew this, push the pole up. So you unscrew it like that, I'll demonstrate it. Push the pole up like so, and then you can tighten that into position like so. And then that way you can decide on whether, you know, you're getting a good enough signal. You have got a little arm on the bottom here, so you can tilt the head of the aerial just by winding that to get a better signal. You can see that this is a Vision Plus amplifier next to this. This needs to be on in order for it to work. You've got a little switch at the bottom here, and the red light indicates that it's on. Turn that off when not in use. And as I say, unscrew this, to then drop this down and tighten that into position when travelling. Moving away from the aerial, and at the bottom of the cupboard you can see that you've got your trip box. So if the vehicle ever trips, you need to come to this area here. It's nice and accessible for you, so it's dead easy to find. So below the storage area, you can see that you've got your boiler. This is a Truma boiler. I'll show you how to operate the boiler in a minute, just for your heating and things. But as I say, this is the boiler itself. It looks very complicated, but don't worry. There's nothing really that you need to know underneath here, bar the drain down point. So this is your second drain down point that we've spoken about, and this is the boiler drain down point. In my opinion, it's the most important one, because if you get frozen water in your system, what'll simply just happen is it'll knacker the boiler, and then you'll have to buy a new one, which, as you can imagine, isn't cheap. So just make sure that this is drained down every time. Now you can see that you've got two drain down points. So you've got firstly this yellow little tab here, and this drains everything from the boiler beyond, so that's all your pipe work. In the up position it's open, in the down position it's closed. Now you might forget about this if your vehicle hasn't been used in a while, so you just need to remember to do that. But as I say, in the up position it's open, in the down position it's closed. And then next to that you've got your actual physical drain down point for your boiler, which is this black system here. Now it's difficult to see on the video, but there is a blue tab at the back of here. So to close it, at the moment it's open, because there's a blue tab that I can feel on this side, which is out, and there's a black nib in between, in the middle of the diamond, which is up. All you need to do is turn that, press the switch in, that closes the boiler and will allow you to pull water through it. Here, for example, when it's colder, you then need to drain that, or when not in use, flick that diamond like so, and that blue tab on the back will just automatically come out. Now this is a quick drain down point, or a fail-safe in essence, and what this does is it reacts to temperature. So for example, if you forgot to drain down the boiler and it gets to a certain temperature, this will automatically drain itself, which is a really good feature. Now you've got to bear in mind, if you've not used the vehicle for a while and it's still, you know, colder months, what you might do is you'll go to turn this and close it, and you'll go to push the little blue button in, but that'll keep pinging out, and it won't allow you to ultimately fill the boiler full of water. The reason for that is, as I say, it's a fail-safe to ensure that you're not getting frozen water in the system, especially if it's not been used in a while. So if that's the case, you just need to run your heating just to allow the heat to disperse over this area and heat this up. It'll take about 30 minutes, and then that way you can push the little blue button in on the back and get it sealed. But at the moment I'll leave it open for you. Now moving on to the lounge, you can see that you've got your big L-shaped lounge here with your table that slides around and also goes up and down. On the under side of the table you've got a mechanism to lock it into place and to stop it from sliding down just by tightening that lever there, and that will no longer push down on the telescopic leg. Now if you are using this area as a bed, all you need to do is simply pull that down like so, so it's locked, and then push the table down. I'll do that for you now. So with the table down, as you can see, it's now locked in. I've locked that in by just pushing the lever towards the back of the van, or the front of the van rather, and that has locked that in now. Now using the cushions in the back, as I mentioned, you can take these out, they're just together, they fold out and just slot into this section here, and then you've got your big double bed down here. You then got your bed up at the top. All you need to do to operate this is push up on the bed and then turn this this plastic point here, and that will lower the bed, which I'll do for you now. And you can see that with the bed lowered, you've got access to your upper bed. You have got netting on here, so it'll stop you from rolling out should you want it, and your ladders are just down here. They'll just connect up onto the side here and allow you up into the bed. So you can see the bed is back now in position. Now what I've done is I've just dismantled the lounge here, as you can see, because underneath this bench seat facing forward is your drain down point for your water. This will access your water tank. As you can see, it's about 120 litres, so it's a really good size. You can see that you've got a red cap here which will unscrew if you want to wash the inside of the tank out. I don't recommend drinking out the tank, but you can put purifying tablets in there. And then on the back here, this is how you drain down the tank. It's a black valve. All you need to do is turn that, and that will drain down the fresh water tank. Now you've two settings to this. This is it's got a quick drain down point. So if you want to, say for example, travel with water, the manufacturer recommend to travel with 20 litres due to weight and water distribution. So with that in mind, you can drain the entire thing down to 20 litres. You do that by simply draining that black valve until you hear a lug or feel the lug where it clicks, and that will drain down the entire tank to 20 litres. If you want to drain down the whole tank, you just need to keep screwing past that lug until you can't screw anymore, and then that will allow you to drain down the entire thing. So it's dead simple and dead easy. And as I say, when you're travelling, once you drain down the majority on site, you can leave these tanks open. As you can see, we're now back to the normal lounge. Before I move on from the lounge and show you your heating system, which is going to conclude the video, it is worth mentioning underneath this seat you have got a bit of storage, and that is also where your fuses and e-box is located. Rightio, so finally, your control panel for your heating. It's dead easy and dead simple. As you can see, where the valve is at the moment, or not the valve but the little pointer, it's pointing at the O. That means off. So the system is now off. Now, if you want to run the vehicle or the vehicle's heating off electric, you've got two options. So you can either run it off this point here by simply flicking it up, and that is about 1 kilowatt of electric, which is the same as 40 degrees. Or you can run it off 2 kilowatt electric, as you can see, which is about 60 degrees. So for example, if you are, let's say, on site and you're taking a shower, you'll probably want it on 40. And if you're obviously washing up and things, you probably want it on 60. You've also got the option of running it off gas, should you want. So you can turn that and run it off gas there, as you can see, and that'll heat the water on gas. And then below that, you can change it to gas and electric, which is a mixture, just by flicking this down to this point here. You will then notice that you've got this dial here, which will change the intensity and will also allow you to operate the vehicle's heating, which from there will heat the entire vehicle. It's dead easy, dead simple, and it's all located on this little dial here. So that concludes the handover video on the Burstner Ixeo 585. I hope you enjoyed.